This is another damn podcast about digital asset management. I'm Henrik Gyor. Today I'm speaking with Tom Barnouw. Tom, how are you?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
Good. Tom, how are you involved with digital asset management?
Well, I work for WWE. Been here about 6 years, and I was hired as a systems engineer. So I'm involved with digital asset management. We have many live shows a year. Thousands and thousands of photographs are taken at each live event, and those assets make their way back to our company for processing, and they are used for a variety of things, from websites to publications to any type of creative services project. So as these photos come in, they're processed by our photo department, uploaded to servers, in which time our asset management system catalogs all those. There's metadata written to each asset so that everything is searchable easily. And then there's many layers we have on top of our assets that can satisfy different workflows. We've got certain catalogs that are web-enabled. Other things can be sent out via email with voting and approval processes that can take place, and things, again, more web-enabled databases where end users can vote and actually have metadata written back to the assets, and then significant processes in place for easily sharing assets around the company without the need to duplicate the files or copy them to other storage mediums. So my involvement is in managing that workflow and trying to find efficiencies throughout the company in ways that we can leverage the asset management system.
How does your organization wrestle with DAM?
It's been an interesting evolution over the last 6 years or so. Working with Cumulus has grown tremendously over those 6 years, aside from just doing the system administration of the back-end infrastructure. I think one of the most important and impactful things that's occurred over that time is really studying the workflow of our users, and I would say the lifecycle management of the data that our asset management system tracks. So we've evolved into a very nice system now. We have several million assets in our system, and of course, as an asset ages, we need to move it, not just from the asset management side, but from the storage side, from disk to tape. How does that process? So the first thing we wrestled with was, how do we manage the life cycle of this data as an asset becomes older? It's used much, much less frequently. Do we need to keep it on disk? If we do move it to tape, how do we easily access that asset on tape? We struggled on solving some of those problems. We've come to a very nice place with it now, where it all works very, very nicely, including giving the end user the ability to manage those assets to some degree, to a much more limited degree than I can, but still they have access to things even when they're on tape, which is nice. Other challenges, I'd say, as we've continued to work with, is the various workflows. It's one thing to have an asset management, in place, cataloging assets, but there's so many different, and this is of course going to be different in every company, but there's so many different workflows. One department or one person may have very different needs with those assets than another, and kind of understanding those various workflows and really customizing the asset management system to blend in well with those required workflows, and really, and in most cases, of course, improve on those workflows. We've certainly been able to leverage our system to create significant efficiencies in workflows for different people in different departments. In terms of how we wrestle with that, I think, again, just that process certainly hasn't stopped. In fact, I feel like I'm just kind of now at the beginning. Now that we've got a very solid foundation for our system in place, managing the life cycle, I can really turn my attention much more to tackling various workflows and creating efficiencies within the company.
And what advice would you like to share with DAM professionals and people aspiring to become DAM professionals?
I think it would probably have to kind of segue from what I just talked about, which is there's so many different things. Obviously, it's going to be, each company is going to have different needs, various storage needs. I mean, depending on how much data you're actually dealing with, that can significantly impact what sort of lifecycle management you may or may not need to have in place. But I think, again, just what I talked about is sort of try to think into the future, 1, 5, 10 years from now, where do these assets, where do you think they're going to live? Down, what sort of access do you think people will need to them? So you can start with that foundation, and then, of course, trying to understand the various workflows that may exist within a company. So if you can kind of do a lot of groundwork ahead of time before deploying something, even if you have deployed something, kind of really start at that 30,000-foot view to try to get a good understanding from the needs of the company as a whole, and then kind of you can begin to zero in on different topics and processes that you can help with.
Well, thanks, Tom.
No problem. My pleasure.
For more on digital asset management, log on to anotherDamblog.com. Another Damn podcast is available on Audioboo, iTunes, and the Tech Podcast Network. Thanks again.